We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 36a. The Gemara here is dealing with a contradiction in Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah says, if you have an Eruv, it's a suffix situation, then we go L'chumra by Eruv Tchumen. But let's say a person touched a mace, but he doesn't know at the time he touched this body whether the person was dead or not. He finds in the morning that the person was dead. He doesn't know what happened when he touched him. So over there, in that particular case, Rabbi Meir said we go L'kula. So Rava now has a different answer to this question. Rava says, Hasam trei chezke L'kula. Over there, by the case of the mace, we actually have two chazakas that go in the lenient direction. That's why we're lenient. V'hacha chada chazaka l'kula. Over here, we only have one chazaka that goes in the lenient direction. That's why we are not lenient. Rashi explains, Rav Amar gabe naga be'echad nami. In the case where you touch an individual, afilu yesh shnei kitei edem chalukos. Even if you had a contradictory set of witnesses, one set of witnesses says he was dead when you touched him. One says he was not. Achas omeres kodem shanaga v'meis v'achas omeres achshav meis. They're arguing when he died. Havinami Rabbi Meir Matayr. Rabbi Meir would still say Tar in that case. V'afilu hachilo tikshi, and it still will not be a question. It won't be a contradiction. Hasam trei chazaki ninu latar, because over there you have two chazakas to go lenient. Umishum hachi has linu lakula. That's why we're lenient. Duki trei levahade trei. The sets of witnesses cancel each other out. V'hamid meis al chezkaso rishona kol alayla v'chai have. The mace has a chazaka that he was alive till the very last possible moment. V'yod hamid nogei al chezkaso rishona v'taro haya. Furthermore, the person who touched the mace had a chazaka that he's pure, so why should you make him tameh? So that's a double chazaka lakula. Hacha b'masnisin chada chazakahu. But over here in the Mishnah, there's just one chazaka. The ikol amemer hamid truma al cheskasa. You should say that the truma should be in its chazaka that it did not become tameh until after Shabbos began. Misham chada chazaka lo marinan sadi hilka chazlin on the chumra. Therefore, in this case, we don't just having one chazaka lakula to say that we have a chazaka that maybe the truma stayed tar until Shabbos already began. That's not enough for us, and we're going to go l'chumra. We're going to say that the Eruv Tchumen is not good. The Gemara now says, Kasha de Rabbi Yossi ad Rabbi Yossi. Fine, we've answered the question, the contradiction within Rabbi Meir. There's also a contradiction we need to answer within Rabbi Yossi. Rashi here says, Kasha de Rabbi Yossi, the Braisa de Katani besofik tevel, uvesofik lo tevel, uvetuma de Rabbanan ochal ochlin v'Rabbi Yossi metame. You have a situation, let's say, where you have tuma de Rabbanan, in a suffix situation, we're going to say that Rabbi Yossi says tameh. Umas nisim katani suffix eruv kosher, but when it comes to an eruv tchumen, Rabbi Yossi said that a suffix is kosher. Va'afilu tchumen derabanan tikshi. Even if tchum is only derabanan, you have a kasher, because in the situation of suffix by tuma derabanan over there, so we said that it's also a case of derabanan, and there Rabbi Yossi goes l'chumra, and here Rabbi Yossi goes l'kula. So what's going on? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Huna bar Chinana. Rav Huna bar Chinana says, Shani tuma hoa v'yesh lo ikra min haTorah. The situation with regards to Tumah, even if we're talking about Tumahs that are Durabanan, but Tumah itself, it has a source in the Torah. It comes from the Torah. There are Durabanan types of Tumah, but it's Ikr min haTorah. But over here, it's fully Durabanan. Rashi says, Hoa v'yesh lo ikr min haTorah, the yesh Tumah min haTorah. There are cases of Tumah min haTorah. V'yesh lahachmir b'safik tvi lasa. And therefore, in those cases, certainly you should be machmir. So that's why the Rabbanan said, look, even if you have a situation where you're going to do a tvila on an issue of tumah that's derabbanan, and you have some kind of a suffix, you should be machmir there as well. That way you won't come to a suffix tvila by doraisa situation. When I read this Rashi, I should have read besafik taval over suffix lo taval. I think I said tevel. It means, again, it's a suffix whether he immersed properly or not in a situation of Tumah D'Rabbanan. So that's what the Gemara answers, that Tumah has an Ikr min haTorah, but the Gemara says Shabbos nami doraisa. Shabbos also is doraisa, has an Ikr, has an Ikr min haTorah. So the Gemara answers no, kasav Rabbi Yossi Tchum D'Rabbanan. Rabbi Yossi holds Tchum is D'Rabbanan, and the fact that other halachas of Shabbos are doraisa. Rashi says Shabbos nami doraisa at Tchumen parach lemeimar the Tchumen doraisa. Uch Rabbi Akiva Mesechet. So the Rashi says the kasha here really is shouldn't tchum be doraisa. Umishani kasav Rabbi Yossi, no, tchum d'Rabbanan. Tchum is d'Rabbanan according to Rabbi Yossi. Umishon delo lesel zuzule b'shar sveikas d'malach Shabbos like a lemigzar. Rashi addresses the obvious question, but by Tumah we're saying that Tumah d'Rabbanan you have to be machmir, because otherwise you might come to be mezalzel in Tumah d'Oraisa. Why don't we say the same thing on Shabbos? Tchum d'Rabbanan, you should be machmir, because otherwise you're going to be mezalzel in other halachos of Shabbos d'Oraisa. He says that's not true. Delo damu malachos l'tchumen, because you can't compare the malachos of Shabbos to tchum, which is not even a malacha. Aval tumas damu lahadadi, but different kinds of tuma, they're all similar to one another, so there would be a room for confusion in that situation. V'iba yisema, or you could give another answer to answer the contradiction within Rabbi Yossi, hadi day, hadi rabbi. In one case, Rabbi Yossi is saying his own opinion. In the other case, he's saying his Rebbe's opinion, and the Gemara brings a source for this as well. Dekanami, Dekatani will prove it to you because it says, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says, Avtolmis hey and Mishum Chamisha Sakenim. He said from Avtolmis, in the name of the 5 elders, Shasafik Erev Kasher, that a Safik Erev were lenient, that it's Kasher Shema Mina. So you see that by the case of Erev, he was only lenient in the name of his Rebbe, but he himself would be machmir. Rashi says, "Didei machmir afilu b'safek derabanan." He would be machmir even by safek derabanan in these kind of situations of chazak or masnis and derabe avtulmasi. His Rebbe avtulmas, that was the Mishnah. That's not his own opinion. Rava gives a different answer. Hasam hainu taima de Rabbi Yossi. Over there, the reason of Rabbi Yossi is as follows: Hamed tamei al cheskaso ve'emalo taval. Because the guy is tummy to start, and the issue is, did he do a proper immersion in the mikveh or not? So you have to say there's actually a chazaka the other direction. The chazaka is the guy is tamei, and you should assume he's tamei and say that the tefillah was not good. So that's why Rabbi Yossi is strict in that case. But when it comes to the Erev Tchumen, you can still say the Erev is good. The Gemara says, what are you talking about? Adrab, the contrary. Hamid mikvah al cheskaso. You can do a chazaka the other direction. The mikvah should have a chazaka, and ve'imalo chaser, and say that it didn't lose any water. So the Gemara answers, b'mikvah shalom nimda. The case, he went into a mikvah that was never measured. There was never a chazaka, and that's why in this particular case, you actually have a chazaka the other direction. That's why he's strict. Rashi over here says, Hamed tamei al cheskaso, kule chazaka l'chumra ika l'kula leka. In this case, the entire chazak is l'chumra. If you look at where the presumption is, it's that this guy should be tamei. But when it comes to our Mishnah, you have chazakas in both directions. Hamed adam al cheskas tchum beso. You can say that the person has a chazaka to go by the tchum of his house. V'yamar lo erev. That would be a reason to say it's not a good erev. But you could also say hamed shruma al cheskas of erev. You could say the truma is a chazaka, that it is pure, that it didn't become tamei, and it is a good erev. U'v'derabanan l'kul azlin. And again, by issues that are only midrabanan, we're going to go l'kula in those types of situations. And so therefore, really, it's not a contradiction at all, according to this approach. Tanya, we learned in a brisa. Ketzad Amar Rabbi Yossi Safek Erev Kasher. Brisa says, how does Rabbi Yossi say, in what scenarios does Rabbi Yossi say a Safek Erev is kosher? Erev b'truma Safek mi ba'od yom nitmes Safek mi shechashecha nitmes. Let's say a person makes an Erev with truma. We don't know whether it became tummy before Shabbos, after Shabbos began. V'chein b'peiros, or you have fruit Safek mi ba'od yom niskanu. You don't know whether the proper truma was taken off before Shabbos. Safek mi shechashecha niskanu, or did it happen after Shabbos? Zehu Safek Erev kosher. Those are all cases where it's a Safek, and we say that the Erev is good. Aval Erev b'truma. But if you do an Erev with truma, Safek tahora, Safek tameh, we just don't even know if this truma is tahor tameh. V'chein repeiros, or you have peiros, Safek niskanu, Safek lo niskanu. We just don't know if these peiros had proper trumas taken off, if it's tevel or not. Ein zeh Safek Erev kosher. That's not a case of Safek Erev kosher. In other words, the first cases, we know what happened ultimately, but we just don't know when it happened. Then you can be mekel. But if you have a situation you don't even know what you used, there you can't be mekel. So the Gemara says, Ma'ishna truma. Let's go back to these first cases. Ma'ishna truma damar hamed truma al cheskasa. In the case of truma, we understand. You say that truma has an original chazaka, that it was pure, and therefore it should be a good erev ve'ema tahorahi. We should say it's pure. That makes sense. But peiros nami, when it comes to the fruit, in a situation where you don't know when you took off truma, when you made it not tevel, so there it should be the opposite. It starts off not kosher, it starts off as tevel, and you don't know if it was fixed in time. So there it should go the opposite direction. Hame tevel al cheskaso. We should say that it is tevel. It has a presumption of being tevel. Ve'ema lo niskanu, and say that it wasn't fixed on time. So the Gemara says, you're right, that would actually be a problem, but the Gemara says, Lo teima safek mi ba'od yom niskanu. You're going to have to say that it wasn't, read it differently. It's not that it's a suffix whether it was fixed, whether proper truma was taken off before Shabbos. That's not the issue. Elo ema safek mi ba'od yom nidmu. What the issue is was it mixed up with truma tameya, or with, we'll see in Rashi, was it mixed up with something not kosher before Shabbos? So it started off with a chazaka that it was kosher, and then it got mixed up with something that's not kosher. Rashi here says two explanations. Nidmu. Nidmu, one pshat is chulin havim karim misukanin. It was chulin and it was totally fixed originally. V'nafla behen truma v'nidmu. First pshat is truma falls into the chulin, and if you're going to say the answer, V'haitana savar lo kesumchas. Then you're going to have to say the Tana holds like sumchas damar ein ma'arvin li Yisrael b'truma. That truma would be no good for a Yisrael. Because other opinions say that truma is okay because a Kohen could eat it. Even a Yisrael can use it for an Erev since a Kohen could eat it. But this will not follow that. Therefore, again, if truma fell in before Shabbos, alpha gav dechazi l'kohanim ain't no eruv erev. The fact that it's fit for kohanim is irrelevant. It's not going to be a good erev. So one pshat in nidmu is that you had chulin, and then we don't know when truma fell in. Lishna achrin, another way of understanding, nidmu shenafa l'sochan tevel. Maybe you had a situation where you started off with chulin and then tevel fell in, to lo chazi afil l'kohen, which would not be fit for a kohen. Point being, something not kosher along these lines fell in, and now you have a good chazaka that you can use, that it started off kosher, and the question is, when did it become problematic? Gemara continues, Ba Rav Shmuel Bar Rav Yitzchak me Rav Huna. Rav Shmuel Bar Rav Yitzchak asked Rav Huna the following question. Hayu lefan of shteki karos. Let's say a person has in front of him 2 loaves of bread, achas tameh, achas tahora. One is tameh, one is tar. V'amar irvu li b'torah, b'chol makam shehi. He says, I don't know which one of these is tar. Whichever one is tar, that's the one I want to use for my erev. What's going to be the halacha? The Gemara says, Tiboiler Reb Meir, Tiboiler Reb Yossi. This is a kasha, both Rabbi Meir, who's generally strict by Suffolk Erev, and it's a question according to Reb Yossi, who's usually lenient. Why? Tiboiler Reb Meir, you can ask according to Reb Meir. Adkan lo kamer Reb Meir hasam deleka tahora. Rabbi Meir is strict when you don't have a for sure pure situation. Hacha ha'ika tahora, but over here you have a pure loaf of bread. There's no doubt about that part. Oh, deal more. You could even say, Afilu Rabbi Yossi lo kamer elo hasam dim isa di Torah yadala. You could say Rabbi Yossi allows it in the Mishnah because if it is pure, at least you know which piece of food you're using. But here he doesn't even know what piece of food he's using. Maybe it's going to be bad even according to Rabbi Yossi. So this was the kasha. So Amar Lei, so he answered him, Bein Rabbi Yossi, Bein Rabbi Meir, whether you're following Rabbi Yossi, whether you're following Rabbi Meir, Ba'inan Su'uda Haru'ya Mi Ba'od Yom V'leka. It needs to be a meal which can be eaten. In this case, it cannot be eaten because you don't even know what food you're actually using for the Erev. Boy Minei Rav Amir Rav Nachman. Now Rav asks Rav Nachman the following question. Kikor Zu Hayom Chol. Let's say a person has a loaf of bread. He says, today, this kikar is going to be chulin. It is not hektish. Ulamachar kodesh. But tomorrow, I'm going to be making this holy. V'yamar, and then he says, irvu li bozeh. He says, I want to make an erev with this piece of food. Mao, so what's the halacha? So Amar Lei said to me, Eruvo Erev, it's going to be a good Erev, because since today it's chulin, so today is when you're making the Erev, it's not going to be a problem. Rashi over here says, first of all, in this case, Kikar Zuamar al Kikar Achas be'erev Shabbos. It's erev Shabbos, and he says, Ayom yehei chol, ulamachar yeh kodesh. Tomorrow will be kodesh. Ve'irvu shlucha, but his shliach makes an erev. Ma'u holu bein hashmashas suffik. The question is, since bein hashmashas is a doubt, we don't know if it's tomorrow yet. Chayshinun dilma kodem knias erev cholol hektish. Maybe it became hektish before the erev. V'yein ma'arvin behektish. You can't make an erev with hektish. Olam minan hachir. We don't say that. So that was his kash. And again, he said to him that in that case, that's going to be a good erev. We assume, since it starts off as chulin, that it stays chulin when the erev is chal. But hayom kodesh ulamachar chol. What about the reverse? Let's say today it's holy, but tomorrow I'm going to redeem it. It's no longer going to be kachim. It's no longer going to be hektish. V'yamar irvu li bazen. He says, I want to make an erev. Ma, what's the halacha? Amar Lei, he said, ein eruvo erev. In this case, it's not a good erev. You're going to assume in this case that it's kodesh. He says, Maishna, what's the difference? Amar Lei said, go and think about it. Eat a core of salt. That's a way of saying, when think about it a while, you'll see the answer. And the answer is as follows. Hayom chol ulamachar kodesh. If you have a situation where you say, today it's chol, tomorrow it's kodesh, misveika lo nachtale kedusha. We have a doubt, and we don't say out of a doubt that it became holy. We assume that it stayed chulin, and it was still a good erev, and then later it became holy. But hayom kodesh ulamachar chol, that's the reverse. If it starts off kodesh, and you want to know when it became chol, misveika lo pakale kedushase mine. Out of a doubt, the kedusha doesn't leave. So in a doubt situation, like ben hashmashos, it remains hektish, and it's not going to be good for an erev. Tanan Hasam, we learned in the mission over there, log in tvul yom. Let's say a person has a pitcher that is a tvul yom, meaning this pitcher was tameh, it was immersed, and it's waiting for sunset. It's waiting, or not necessarily sunset, it's waiting for the end of the day to be totally pure. Shemalu min hachaves shel meiser tevel. And you filled up this pitcher with what they're calling here meiser tevel, meaning it's meiser rishon that you haven't yet taken off trumas meiser. Meiser rishon goes to the Levi, and the Levi is obligated to separate a tenth from the meiser he receives in order to and give that to the Kohen. And until he separates it, it's considered tevel. So it's what's called meiser tevel. It's meiser rishon that's still tevel. V'yamar, and he says, Harezet Trumas Meiser likishatechshach. He says, I'm going to separate the Trumas Meiser when it becomes dark. Now that works very perfectly, because while it's tevel, it's totally fine to be sitting in this pitcher, in this jug, because there's no real truma. The truma is obviously anything that's tevel has truma within it, but the truma hasn't been separated yet. It's not really truma, so the truma doesn't become tummy because there's no truma yet. The truma is within the mixture; it hasn't been separated. He's going to separate the truma after Shabbos starts, or after the next day begins. When the next day begins, it's not a Tvol Yom anymore. It's already going to be totally tar. So that's a perfect way of making it Trumas Meiser. This will be Trumas Meiser tomorrow, meaning tonight. When the day ends, I'm going to make this Trumas Meiser. Devar of Kayamin. That works. It's Trumas Meiser. The Trumas Tahora. It's not a problem. Now, let's assume it was Shabbos. It was Erev Shabbos, and he did this. V'imamar irvuli bazef. He says that I also want this to be my Erev. So he's saying, in other words, this Trumas Meiser should be Chal, and now it's no longer Tevel. We're going to take off the Trumas Meiser probably, and then it's no longer Tevel. It's going to be Chulin, and I want the Chulin to work as an Erev. Lo Amar Klum. That's not going to work at all, because apparently the Trumas Meiser is being taken off too late. It's really Tevel until after Shabbos begins. And Amar Rava says, based on this, Zos Omeris, this Mishnah proves, Sof Hayom Kona Erev, that the Erev only takes effect towards the end of the day, meaning the Erev is taking effect. It's not going to be taking effect on time, or it's actually going to be too early. Sof Hayom, as we'll see in a second, the Erev is taking effect before it really becomes Chulin. Rashi over here says, if he says make an Erev Hoel, right at the time of Ben Hashmoshes, it's still Tevel. That's what we said. That's why this works. He's making it Trumas. He's taking off the Trumas Meiser after it becomes dark, after the Kli becomes pure. So at the time of Ben Hashmoshes of the Erev, it's still Tevel. And that's why Rabbi says, Sof Hayom means Tchilas Ben Hashmoshes. The beginning of Ben Hashmoshes, Shu Sof Hayom Shel Erev Shabbos, which is the end of Erev Shabbos, Kona Erev, that's when the Erev takes effect. The Sof Hayom, Akati Tevelu. At that point in time, it's still Tevel, and therefore it's not going to be good. And we'll continue this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis.